flesh and blood with how much we had in common.
It's sometimes that happens. You'd be amazed how many times I've had people. This book's been out 5 years.
Yeah.
And we've been doing an hour and 90. What is it? 90? How long? 90 minutes.
We 1 hour and 31 minutes. We were at.
Fucking ridiculous. But you could sit here I could tell you story after story about sales, about people that have contacted me, about how I've helped them and how I inspired them. And sometimes I get off the phone. I had a lady at Thanksgiving call me. She was getting ready to go on a plane. I never take a fucking phone call. I picked the phone up. It's a grandmother going to see. She couldn't get on a plane. She had my book with her. And she says, I read your book. I'm trying to get on the plane. I talked to her. She landed in Chicago. She called me. I said, call me when you land. She landed. She starts crying. She says, how do you tell people that? People would be like, how do you tell people that? I'm like, oh my God, how cool is that?
But isn't that, I don't
amazing.
know. To me, I equate, like when I used to help people uncover that they had medical conditions. Mm-hmm. I had a kid used to pass out playing football. All right. He's constantly.
Yeah.
Dug around, asked some questions. His father was criminal defense attorney John Manny. Come to find out, I told him what I thought it was. I was right. He had a heart murmur. So the oxygen was getting cut off while he was practicing, exerting himself too much. Father, now here I am. He's just a customer. We just through my process, asking questions.
Yeah, but you know this stuff. You're good at it.
I mean, I try. I'm not a doctor, but
I get it. It's the same thing though. But you know enough. It's like the PA. Mm-hmm. PAs know more sometimes than doctors.
I don't go to a doctor. I go to an NP.
That's 100%.
Kathy Parker, 176 Tollgate Road.
Are we doing this right now?
No, everything's on right now.
Jesus Christ.
But this is.
I took a picture of you. I want to see what my kids said.
This is why I love podcasts, because it could be whatever we want.
You know what? This is so cool.
Yeah, no,
it's really cool.
When I tell you, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass because you're bigger than me, and I still don't think I can outrun you. This was the podcast. When I first had this idea in March of 2018, what we're doing right now was the first and only thought that I had.
Oh, that's nice.
This is it. Because it was originally going to be motivation-based. You have IFT. It was going to be fitness-based. You know what I mean? Like you taught me how to work out when I was a kid. So there were so many different reasons I wanted to talk to you.
Well, I'll tell you this. One of the things I love, Steve, is I get up on stage and I say, I'm going to tell you, you already know who I am. Ask me questions. Mm-hmm. Because what it does is it brings you, it brings the audience and it brings you to where you want me to go. Mm-hmm. Because to tell you stories,
to sit here and talk is what
I love it. I could sit here fucking for hours.
Make it relatable for them.
So ask me questions, whatever you want. I will answer them the best I can. And if I go off on a tangent, say fucking slow down.
But that's whatever. What these are for. And so it was funny. Me and Brianna were watching. You did an interview out in Chatham. Mm-hmm. A couple of minutes.
That was the Zip trip.
Yes. Okay.
That's the one that he saw.
Me and Brianna were watching that. And when it was done, I hit pause on YouTube. I looked at Brianna. I go, now here's my problem with that. Not that I have a problem with it. I said, that man has so much to give. That little snippet does you no justice. So again, when I put this together, I wanted, my goal here was to do what we're doing.
Okay.
I want you to go off on tangents.
Okay.
Because if anyone hasn't read the book, and don't let me find out that you haven't read this book, because you should, but my goal is to show people that there's this side of you, mm-hmm. there's the side that we're discussing, there's the side that I know, there's the family side. Like, we all have layers to our personality.
Absolutely, sure.
And I think my goal with this is to show a little bit of all of those,
sure,
to pique that interest, because I would love to do this again after I read the second book.
Okay.
But we should do the next one on the boat.
You get a promise.
That'd be awesome.
A promise.
You get my wife out on a boat?
I thought your wife was coming. I actually got her a water bottle.
Oh, Brianna, where are you? So here's the sad thing. So since COVID hit, it's obviously it's a blessing and a curse, but for us, because we work in healthcare, mm-hmm. we both work remotely. Mm-hmm. So we're doing all this work in the house because we're saving a ton of money. Her lease was up, and her birthday was in May. We gave her a lease back, so we're saving almost $600 a month.
Wonderful.
On top of the money we normally tuck away. I said, let's just get all the stuff done in the house that we want. So we're down to one car. So she's stuck at the house right now. She's planning for something which I can't say on air in case certain people listen.
Okay.
But I'll fill you in afterwards.
All right, good.
So we'll go back to, I do have a script, somewhat. So we'll go with this. this is one of the more intriguing stories in your book, and this is one that I had almost an identical situation to, and this is why I bring it up. You had a very interesting situation when you were a child that involved a nun at a Catholic school when you were in class. You had something you had to present to the front of the class. You were the last person called.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk a little bit about that situation, because like I said, I've been in a similar situation, but the difference was I had my older brother there for the bus ride home after I had my accident.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having to do that alone and having it be called out the way it was.
Yeah.
My interest with this is how something of that magnitude can have such a lasting effect on the psyche of a child. It's something you have a hard time letting go of.
Yeah, and it's funny, Steve, because I don't have a very good memory. But there's certain things in life, as you know, that are embedded in your brain that you don't forget. And one of those things is the feeling I had standing up, waiting to get to the nun's desk, and hoping, because as you read, I took yellow crayon and I put it on there.
Tried to make the wax stick.
And I'm holding it and holding it and holding it. And I remember this. I don't know how old I was. How old are you in first, second? Well,
I have no recollection of age whatsoever.
Me neither. And
let's just say this. We were both young and handsome.
Extremely young. Yeah. We were cute. Yeah. Probably cute then.
I was rugged.
I wasn't rugged, believe me. And I remember giving her the book, and I remember her picking it up and getting ready to put it down and put a check, and it fell off.
Yeah.
Stand in front. And I had to stand in front. And I stood in front. I waited for everybody, and out comes the ruler. Bang, right across. And I went back to my seat, and I shit my pants. And the thing was, she kept going and kept going and kept going. And back then, I guess it was okay.
But this goes to my point we talked about earlier. You grew up in a different generation where this behavior was acceptable.
I never, she used to make she was about 300 pounds. She'd make a fist and punch people in the back, and you'd hear it echo through the church.
The thud.
The thud, a boom. And all you're doing is like, as little kids, you don't know. And I shit my pants, and my mother had to come down, and it was horrible. But those are the things, think about that. And this is only, we're not talking about, God forbid, wars.
That'll stay with you if you get 20 or something.
That shit stays with you.
Because when you're a kid, you're a sponge. You remember. See, it's funny. You had just said you have a terrible memory. So I agree with you 1,000%. What I remember is all the bad, dumb, or violent things that I experienced as a child. That's what I remember. I remember pockets of things here and there, but you tend to remember the traumatic things where you had such an overwhelming emotion. Fear, anger, hatred, embarrassment. So I had a similar situation where I was a kid. I didn't like being in class. I had a hard time focusing. I loved history. I loved science. I hated everything else except recess and lunch.
Yep.
So I used to bring my little Justice League action figures. I used to stuff my toys in my pockets.
Okay.
Every class I'd have to go to the bathroom. I'd go sit in the bathroom. I'd play with my toys.
Sure.
Teacher found out about it. Called me out in class, whatever. I shit my pants. I had to stay like that. It was luckily, it was closer to the end of the day. On the bus ride home, people kept saying, "Did someone shit their pants?" My brother was covering for me, sitting with me on the bus.
Yeah.
I was whimpering, hiding.
Yep.
But I remember that as clear as if it happened yesterday. Because I did shit my pants yesterday. But those things stay with you.
But sometimes your brain works the other way. Sometimes it's a defense mechanism, like in a good way. Like it doesn't let you remember. I had somebody ask me one time, I was talking, it was my first talk, and she used the word medicinal. Stupid me, I'm like, I didn't even know what the word meant.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell does medicinal mean? And she goes, do you find when you speak medicinal? I'm sorry, I couldn't. Now I'm in front of hundreds of people. I'm like,
and you don't want to admit that you don't know.
I don't want to admit it. So I said, I don't. And finally, I realized that what it was, which is true. And the reason I don't is because what you're doing is you're essentially taking a scab and you're opening it up, and you're opening it up, and you're opening it up, and you're revealing things from years and years and years and years of horrific memories, like my anxiety tree, which you know, and it's the roots and the tree. And well, that's now this big. It's a shrub. It's not even a shrub. It's a little, you don't want that thing to start blossoming again. And every once in a while I get concerned. So I make sure when I talk, I don't let it get to the level of taking it to that internal level of taking that scab and getting it down to where it's starting to bleed again, because I don't want to get there. I'd never want to get to that dark, horrible place.
You're afraid to open that door too far.
I'm petrified of that. So I'll get to a level, and there might be questions that are asked that I'll give surface answers, but never, question, never an answer.
You dance around it. You just don't jump into the pool.
I can't get there because I refuse to get to that place again. I don't want to get there.
But the fact that you have that psychological ability to handle it in that manner and never let it kind of surface again,
right,
shows the monumental strides you've made over the past couple of decades.
If you ask me a question, I'm going to give you I'm going to answer you honestly, and that's the way it is. But if there's a question, okay, so now there's a 1A, 1B, 1C, I might stop you. And not because I don't want to answer it, because I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And, I told you about Firestone. He wanted to get people to cry on their show. I'm not going to get to that level of where it was at that worst moment of my life. And I remember that. And it was horrible, running off planes. But then I realized, you know what? I'll never get there again because I know what it is.
Yeah.
So I've never gotten to that level again. 10 was death to me, and we talked about levels.
You never hit it though,
because 10 was death, and I've never fainted. The only one that fainted from panic attacks is Sopranos. He's the only one I've ever read about, and I'm an expert at this.
Yeah,
I've never heard of anybody ever fainting from panic attacks.
I thought I was going to in the Cedar Steakhouse,
but you never did. Nope. Nobody's ever done it. So when people say I fainted from, no, you didn't, and they're telling me this. Oh no, I did. I said, when? Well, you know what? My blood sugar was low, and this was a talk I had, and I challenged him. Yeah, this was in Falmouth, Massachusetts.
We were talking about one-uppers, right?
And I said, you did not faint from a panic attack, and I'm telling you, you didn't. He said, no, it was more of a blood sugar. I know, because it doesn't. Your body won't do that to you. It's a fight or flight response. Yeah, and you know that.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's an expert, right?
Yeah.
So what I wanted to talk about next is, I think it was around the time you turned 8 years old. Your family had relocated from New Jersey to Connecticut, all right? Because your father had gotten a better job, and there was some kind of societal issues, racial issues turning up.
69.
In New Jersey. So your father had gotten a better position. You guys moved out to Connecticut. Now, you had mentioned in your book that, to your recollection, these are some of the best times of your life. Was it? Am I pronouncing this right? Canaan, Connecticut. Canaan, Connecticut. One specific sentence, you stated that you learned to love being alone while you were in Connecticut. My question is, why do you think that was? What is it about being alone in that environment? Now, particularly for young kids moving, that could be traumatic. That could be kind of culture shock. So there's a lot going on. But you found solace in that. So my curiosity is, what was it about that transition in your life that you found peace and solace?
First of all, when we moved, there was racial tensions going on in my school. There were shootings in my school. A girl got beat up in my school. There was all kinds of racial riots. So leaving that environment itself was fantastic. So I'm glad my dad took me out of that. Took us out of that. When we get to Canaan, we had 10,000 acres behind our house.
Oh my God.
We didn't own it, but it was Canaan Mountain. So when you're 8, 9, 10 years old, and you've got 10,000 acres, you made go-karts, you made mini
building
bikes.
forts left and right.
That's what we did, and I lived in those forts by myself. I made my forts. So I learned that I really like being by myself. At the time, these thoughts were, this is so cool. I get to be by myself. I get to build my forts. I had my friends. I had a bunch of friends. We had a blast.
Nate, I think, was your best friend, right? Was it Nate?
Well, I don't use the same words, but it was actually, his name was Bobby.
Okay, all right.
But there's only one real, as you know in the book, and you actually know the person, Danny.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Danny's the only real person I mentioned in the book. Just to keep people honest, and they don't want to be known. And even my customers, I keep different names. But
throw me in the next one. I love attention.
What's that?
Write another book. Throw me in there.
Mention that to me. I will. So it was woodsy. It was solace. It was. I found out I'm a very spiritual person. I'm not religious per se, but I'm spiritual. Like when I'm on my boat, it's a spiritual. It's very, I don't know. It hits me.
Yeah.
And
there's something about being out in nature.
Yeah. Yeah. So I loved it. I loved being by myself in the woods, and so yeah. And plus, we left New Jersey.
That's got to, yeah. So I was going to say that's got to be frustrating to say the least. Now, to kind of piggyback off of that, in your book, you had mentioned that as a young man, Sunday nights were the worst night of the week for you. For most people, Sunday nights is an anxiety-ridden night because, you have to get up and go to work the next day.
What do they call Monday morning uglies? Or
there's so many different names for it.
I can't remember what it was, but yeah.
So at that point in your life, do you think that this was truly the beast that would do this to you? Or do you think that perhaps like developing hormones, things like that at that point maybe have contributed to it?
I think this is the start of it. This was the start of my throat closing. This is a start of me going blind. This is a start of me thinking that my body, it was, I know, I want to say, you mentioned hormones. Maybe that was a contributing factor. I don't know. But when my parents, this was their night out. So when my parents
used to leave, go to the movies,
go to dinner, whatever it was, because they both worked, or, my dad worked 2 jobs, and I hated them leaving. So, and my sister was capable, and my brother was there, but that was the start of it all. And maybe the hormonal change or whatever piggybacked on itself, and
probably compounded if nothing else.
Could have been that, but that was the start of it all. Yeah. And I remember Tinkerbell. I hated Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell was this. You remember the Disney?
I remember Tinkerbell.
Hated Tinkerbell because that's when they left. So I used to say I hated Tinkerbell.
What was the
Disney? It was the Disney Sunday night movie.
The police show you used to watch. You actually put a replica of the truck in the book. Oh, you hated it.
Emergency.
Yes, that's what it was.
Anything to do with doctors. Right now, the shows that are on now, I would walk by the TV.
I can't watch any of them anyway.
Nah, it's just But because I used to think I had that.
So I'm going to mention a couple things.
Go ahead.
And I just want to see the what ifs we had touched on earlier. What if my throat closes? How did that start?
Trying to find something that would probably happen to me. You search. Your brain has a weird way of, I mentioned that sleepovers. Again, jumping around.
Jump around as much as you want.
A friend of mine, Tommy Manasseh, that's his real name. His parents were divorced, and they had a trailer in the backyard. And that was our fort. And that was in Canaan. And a good friend of mine, and there was about 5 of us, and we used to go to his trailer. And I loved it. It was a great time. But I knew what was coming was we had to sleep. We had to go to sleep. And his mother used to take the light and flash the light. But in his trailer, there was a slit. It was an aluminum trailer. And I used to, sleep on that side. I knew to get to that bunk. And what I would do at night was do this with my eyes because I thought I would go blind. And I remember being able to see the light through that slit that was in the trailer. And nobody knew it. And I used to rock my head like this because I used to hear my heartbeat in my ears.
Oh, yeah.
So I used to rock my head. So here I am, think of this, going like this with my eyes, rocking my head back and forth. Imagine your fucking friends looking at you like, what the hell is he doing?
And this is all because you thought your throat was going to close.
My throat was going to close. I was going to go blind. And when you start thinking about that anxiety tree I talk about, those are the roots that are setting its path, building its trunk, and this is at, 10, 12 years old.
Jesus.
So looking back at that kid, hey, Mom, guess what? This is what's going on in my life. Never saying anything.
So does that go hand in hand with the what if I can't breathe?
Then it starts with that.
What if I pass out?
What if I pass out?
Was it a progression from one to the next?
I can't be honest with you and tell you it was a progression. I think it was more of this happened, that happened, then back to this, then back. So it was more of a brick by brick.
Yeah. So you're
I guess we could say it's
what I'm trying to determine is if it was like a slow progression or if it was just this tidal wave of all these questions hitting you at one time.
No. Okay. Great question. And I answered it wrong. I guess it was a progression because it didn't go from my throat's closing, I'm going blind to, oh my God, what if my heart stops? It was, any time I had this feeling, it was a what if. So if I felt the pain in my chest, what happens if that happens?
Yep. And
by the way, at 60, now you get a pain in your chest, you go, oh, what happened? What if? But back then when you're 12, you start thinking of things. Yeah. And, we didn't have WebMD. You're not going on, line. It's just what you felt and what you thought.
So I'll tell you what created my anxiety when I was younger. So my mom's birth father died when he was 35 or 36. He had a massive stroke. So he was a Marine, semi-pro football player. He was a driver for New Penn. And if I'm not mistaken, the story went that he was opening the back of the truck to make a delivery one day and he just dropped dead. So I remember that story my whole childhood. So my entire life leading up to my mid-30s, I was paranoid. On my grandfather's grave, you were the first person I'm admitting this to, with the exception of maybe my wife. My entire life, from my early teens up until my 35th or 36th birthday, I was paranoid that I was going to drop dead one day, because it was in my family.
Yeah.
So again, not to your magnitude, probably different ends of the spectrum, but that's why I hold your book in such high regard.
Yeah, but you keep saying not to your magnitude. You got to remember something. Somebody's magnitude, your magnitude, or where you've been, your level might be higher than my level.
Depending on us,
depending on your situation, depending on what you've been through. You know, my life was different than your life. My upbringing was different than your upbringing. So it doesn't really. It's not a question of, like, this is what I've been through. This is what I've been through. This is the tools I used to get through it. This is where I am today. That's what I want people to see. That doesn't mean that my life was harder or less hard than yours, or worse. It's just what my life was about.
You know what I realize I'm doing? Comparing. We just talked about this.
It's all good.
All right. So obviously growing up, you know, the what ifs were endless with you. You've kind of corralled that at this point in your life, but how often do they creep up now?
They do every so often. Like, for instance, if we're going to take a trip on a plane, it's still there.
Yeah.
You know, like years ago, 3 or 4 days before I'd fly, I used to make excuses, like subtle excuses to myself, like, I really don't have to do this. I'm going to make an excuse, like I have to do something at work. So in my head, I'm fooling myself. I'm saying, you know what? I really don't have to go. So my body would be fine, because I'm making an excuse for myself that I really don't have to go. The night before, I know I'm going, so that's when it all hit. Now, I'm going to the airport, and that's part of my tool, act as if. Before, I used to be act as if. So nervous. Oh my God, now it's like, I'm going away. I'm going to Florida. Yeah. I'm going to Europe. I'm going here. I'm living my life.
Think about the destination. Don't think about the process in between.
And it's drop your armor, act as if, and all these different tools that I use sound so simple. When I speak in public, do you know how nervous I am?
I can only imagine. You're open about it. You talk about I'm at a level 9. You're witnessing. I'm at a level 8 right now.
Yeah.
It's commendable that you throw yourself out there like that.
That's what I try to do. So people see its vulnerability.
Yeah.
Here's this guy. He's for lack of a better word, made it. He's lifts weights. He's whatever, and he's showing how weak he is because he's afraid of something, and it's okay. By the way, this is what I'm doing to get through it. So what I do is say, I'm nervous. I'm not nervous. I'm excited. So you change your words around, and you'd be amazed how powerful that is.
Of course it is, because think about it. You're tricking your brain in a positive way, where before you're fooling yourself in a way that eventually is going to, that feedback loop is going to come back around and slap you in the face.
And years ago, I'd fool myself, and the beast would come back. You're not excited. You're friggin' nervous.
Yeah.
Now it's the other way around. Stop it.
Yeah.
Get up there, tell your story, and let's go. Yeah. Not like fight it. It's just the tools are there. It's muscle memory.
Yeah.
I play Rocky now in a plane. This is a true story. True story. We used to have the Walkman. I used to carry packs of batteries around because I didn't want that tape to
go out.
God forbid, because I used to go to my car and play the song to try and get through a meeting and all this stuff. And it's funny because I have a, we all have the iPad, whatever the hell is on our phones, but I have every Rocky soundtrack in them. So I'm on a plane and I'm traveling, I don't know where, we were going to Florida. And I hit genre, but I hit just random. So I play jazz, I play this, I'm a musician, I play the drums and trumpet and all that stuff. And Rocky came on, and and all of a sudden I got this, oh Jesus, swear to God, it brought me back. This is 25 years ago.
Really?
It used to help me fight through this thing. And I started to hyperventilate. I started to because it brought me back to where I had...
You remembered why you were listening to it.
Yeah, but I used to listen to that to fight it. And now it brought me back to that same spot where I was fighting it again. I shut it off. I put back on Kenny Chesney or whatever it was, but that's muscle memory. It's amazing what your mind remembers.
Andrea Bocelli.
Who?
Andrea Bocelli.
Yeah.
Porti volare.
Okay.
That's when I'm in that state mentally, I put that on and just I listen to it 2 or 3 times and it just kind of helps center me.
There you go.
Like I listen to, I mean, you remember the stuff we listened to growing up, like in the gyms, heavy metal, 94 HJY, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But now at this point in my life, like I find that I need to go to the complete opposite of where I need to be to lift weights to kind of woosah and just kind of relax.
Well, that's that movie, what's it, Warrior? Where he plays the symphony, he's playing Mozart.
That is such a phenomenal movie.
One of the best.
I can't, my wife and I cried like babies watching that movie.
One of the best. And by the way, Tom Hardy, phenomenal.
For anyone who's never seen the movie Warrior with Tom Hardy, and what is the other actor's name?
My wife would kill me because she tells me all the time.
I always forget.
He is great.
That is one of the greatest movies ever made.
Absolutely. It's got everything in it. Everything in it.
Nick Nolte was priceless.
When he's drinking again.
Yes, and he's listening to Moby Dick.
Oh my God!
It's gut wrenching.
And Tom Hardy grabs him and throws him on a bed, and they start hugging.
I have a hard time talking about those scenes.
It's fantastic,
and it's funny. Like I feel like guys like you and I, we find movies more relatable. Scenes like that in movies, I can't find the correlation, but I don't know what it is. But I know as long as I've known you, we've always had those aha moments where we like a lot of the same stuff. That we motivated by the same stuff.
People laugh at me because I watched The Grey. I watched The Grey.
Oh, such a good movie.
I don't know, hundreds of times. And it's the same thing. It's you against the wolf.
Yeah.
There's so much meaning in that.
But that's the thing.
Get that.
People don't understand what the foundation of that house is. Right. A lot of people don't understand that. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of movies like that.
So you had mentioned before that you're a spiritual, not a religious person. I'm neither a religious nor political person for the most part. I find them to be two divisive topics. But I did want to ask this question. I mean, we could phrase this individual however you want.
Sure,
but
go ahead.
Why do you think God gave you this cross to bear?
I answer that question because I truly believe he gave me this and I'm not going to give the standard answer of help people because I can handle it. And I was able to handle it. And I think it helped me in all aspects of my life. But more importantly, and my wife will agree to this, it calmed me down.
Really?
Yeah. Because when I was a kid growing up, in my 20s, and probably like you, I was a little bit of a maniac. And I bounced, I partied, I went out and I never did drugs. I wasn't into that, but I was into everything else. I had a blast, I drank, I partied, and I did everything. And the woman I married is priceless. She's my life. And I've known her since we're 15. And we could have went in all different directions. And I thank God that we didn't. And I think, truly, he just said, hey, asshole, cut the fuck up. Yeah. This is, calm down. And the other part of that is so that I can get to where I am in my life and, write a book and hopefully help people with this mental illness.
I like that answer a lot better than the standard answer. Everyone says the same thing, to help people.
Yeah.
It's a very cut and dry, almost like a platitude at this point.
Of course. And of course, anytime you can help people, it's great. But no, I think it was it was like, calm the F down.
Yeah.
And it did.
Again, it's another similarity between. If you ask my wife the same question, I think she was brought to me for the same exact reason. Just chill out.
Yep.
And doesn't it just? And for everyone out there who's in a relationship you don't want to be in, you're in a situation you don't want to be in, as painful as it's going to be, as hard as that trek is going to be to reinvent yourself and start over. Isn't it worth just doing instead of living a life of aggravation and anger and frustration and regret? Because I know me, like I have a lot of regrets when I was younger, but I've also learned to live with the fact that it's part of the fabric of who I am today. It helped kind of mold me into who and what I am today.
Hey, listen, we all got arrested. Well, not we all. There's certain people. Me? Yeah, certain people in our little gyms, we got arrested and we got in fights and we did our thing and my dad had to come get me, and nothing earth shattering. We'll say it that way. It's just kids being kids. But
Yeah.
could it have got when you have it that way? It's just kids being kids. But
Yeah.
could it have got when you have 1,200 members in your gym, and they're state troopers, and some of them are prison guards, and some of them are bookies, and some of them
Get away with a lot of shit.
There's a lot of crap going on there, and you can get involved in anything you want to get involved in. And we did. And a lot of us did, and we went out and we did our thing. But here we are talking, and we're grounded. But do I have a regret? Regrets? Of course. There's things I regret, but as far as where I am today, no. I'm happy. I'm happy.
You could see it when you talk about it. Like some people, when they talk about that past, it almost pulls the life out of them. I don't see that with you.
No, I'm happy I went through. I mean, it made me what I am.
Struggle makes you stronger.
Sure.
There's Les Brown has a saying: if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy. And I think for some of us, life hands you that hard part. You don't have to go seeking it. It's just there.
Well, there's no gray area either. I don't believe in a gray area. And I think that's part of anxiety. It's either yes, no, black or white, whatever it is. I hate gray. So
it leaves too much for interpretation.
It does. And it's like yes. I always say the best word in the English language is no. So I used to have vendors come see me. Now, I know I'm not going to leave this vendor. I don't care what his price is. I don't care if he's a great guy. I don't care what it is. But before they started talking, I'd say, you're probably a great guy, but I'm not leaving my vendor. Because I'm very, very, loyal.
Yeah.
Sometimes to a fault. And they look at me and say, I'm just being honest. If you want to go through your thing, I'll listen, but I just am not going to leave that vendor. That particular vendor. It might be, other people maybe, but that particular vendor, no. And even today, I say, if you want to get involved, just say, okay, let's talk further. If not, just say no.
Yeah.
It just makes everything so much clearer.
Yeah, just cut the bullshit.
Just cut it out. Just no, I don't want to do it. Do you want to get involved in a business? I actually don't.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think the gray area in a lot of parts of life just creates it misleads people. It gives people hope where there probably shouldn't be hope.
Right.
So I agree with you on that.
It's true. Yeah. And even in the book, if you read the words and you read the stories and you read. That's part of the problem with having a gray area. Because my gray area was my life, and that's why I hate it now. What was this thing? That was the gray area. Okay, here's safe, here is torture. The gray area was, can I get to that place without that crap in between? You know what I mean?
For you, that was your path. The gray area was you want to be in this direction, you're being pulled in this direction, and in the middle you have this I don't want to say void, but you have this being, this subconscious entity, which is tearing you apart.
Well, they say the best path is the most tortured from draft day, and there we are.
So I want to talk a little bit about your introduction into weightlifting. In your book, you discussed a training book by George W. Kirkley. That's the picture you had sent in there.
Still have it.
How did that book change your outlook on life? How did it shift your view on who you could be? Because like you, I thought, in fact, like I grew up, I was a scrawny kid. I think we had probably a very similar same mentality.
Sure.
It seems like we both, for me, I had mounting insecurities. I was afraid to play sports. I was more afraid that I wouldn't fit in, and we touched on this earlier, with the cool kids, the athletes, the jocks, and so forth. But I will say that once I started lifting weights, for me, that gave me a lot of the confidence that I was lacking prior to that. Talk to me how you think your personality or persona changed a little bit as you segued from prior to lifting weights and into lifting weights, and you've already touched on the gym a few times.
As a man, as a boy, there's not. I don't think there's. Well, I'll paraphrase. I'll just say this. I'll summarize it this way. I don't think there's a boy or a man alive that wouldn't want to be bigger.
Oh, of course not.
Okay, there's this Herculean feeling of Superman, and that. Everybody wants to be Superman.
Look at the comic books when you were a kid, the cartoons. Absolutely. Everybody was big, six-packs, broad shoulders.
They all wanted to be huge. If somebody said, I can take this magic pill and all of a sudden you're going to be huge, you got a big shoulder, you go, nah, you know what, I really don't. Of course they're going to.
I still have my store.
But I saw there was a way to get bigger. And in my head, and it no matter what anybody says, and I could see it with kids today, when you get bigger, you develop confidence, and it might be a
sure as hell did.
superficial confidence, but it's confidence.
But it pushes you in the right direction
That's
psychologically.
correct. And now what happens is you become this boy, you become this man, even if you're 16, and you bench at 185 pounds, and you start getting hair under your arms, and all of a sudden oh my God, what's this thing over here? And oh my God, let's
The T-shirt fits a little bit different.
That's right. Now you start walking different. Now you start talking different, and now you start acting different, and it gives you confidence. And it's weightlifting. I would say out of everything in my life, training with weights has changed my life more than anything else. That is 100% true.
I agree with you 100%. Absolutely.
Yep. It's changed my life.
It's funny because that is actually what I'm known for.
Yeah.
I went from working out in the high school gym. Then once I graduated from that, I came over to Powerhouse, and then you were kind enough to give me some pointers and help me out. And then I went from that, I went back to the high school gym. Then I joined. So it was this odd progression. But it's funny. I can literally chart my progress psychologically.
Yep.
As I physically changed, my mentality changed, and
when you're a salesman and you have a suit on and you're bigger than the next salesman, the first thing they ask, and
all the time,
this is the truth. In Cape Cod, when my boat was down there, I'm on the boat, and a guy went back and said, "Me and my wife were arguing. Were you a football player? Who are you?" Of course, it's a nicer boat, so they think I'm an athlete. I'm 60 years old. I'm a bigger guy. I'm 5'9". You know what I mean? It's like, but
you got me beat.
No, but you know what I mean. And I'm like, wow. I told my wife. She goes, "Wow, your ego was stroked today." And she started laughing.
Yes, it was.
But it was the truth. But when you're a bigger kind of guy, it just when you're a sales guy, and I was selling in my early 30s, and I was big. I filled out my suit. First, wow, where'd you play ball or something
you
like
command
that?
Respect.
Yes, automatically.
It starts the conversation before you open your mouth.
100%.
Yeah.
And they remember you. Hey, take care. And they want, hey, can you work? You know how many workouts I wrote down?
Oh
for the
my
kids?
God!
Right?
Please.
Remember this? Can you write a workout for my kids? I'm like, sure I can. 4 times 10.
Do you know what I got more than anything?
What's
you
that?
a cop? What department are you on? I get that all the time. Shaved head, clean shave,
I can see
short,
it.
stocky, constantly.
I
So
can see it.
when I was working with the veterans, a lot of the housing they were in was in the lower income parts of Providence. They were in transitional housing, things like that. So I remember one day, I'll never forget this. I pull up to this house, and I'm about to take this client down to a social services to get them straightened out with a few things. I pull up across the street. There's a Hyundai Sonata 4-door. There's a kid on a bike on the driver's side and a kid on a bike on the passenger side. I pull up. I get out. Now I used to wear my badge on a lanyard, so it looked like I was in law enforcement, and I was always business casual. Like I was wearing this, but slacks instead of jeans. I get out of the car. I hear bang, bang, bang. Tops in the car. One kid takes off in one direction on the bike. The other kid takes off the other way. The car's still sitting there. So I go over to the passenger seat. I grab a bag of medications for the guy I'm picking up. The kid looks over at me and goes, "Yo, you 5'0"?
Are you serious?
I go, "Dude, I'm a caseworker for veterans." He starts laughing. He goes, "My boys thought you were a cop. They took off." I go, "I don't really care what you're selling them." I said, "I'm just grabbing somebody, take them to an appointment. I mean, you guys have a good day." They thought it was an undercover cop.
I can 100% see it.
So when I tell you, I had like a free pass in Providence. Whenever I was in Providence, doesn't matter what neighborhood I was in, nobody bothered me. They all thought I was an undercover cop. They're like, "You look like you could handle yourself." Little did they know in my head, like I've been in like 5 or 6 altercations my whole life.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
But I looked the part.
True story. We bought tickets to the BC. It was a BC game, hockey game up in Boston. So I scalped these tickets, forced to make sure they're inside because I want them inside the arena. So you had the outside where you couldn't get inside, and then you had inside arena tickets. So this guy sells me ticket, I don't know, $200, whatever it was. It was a big ticket. So we get these tickets and we go in. All of a sudden, we're waiting in line. We get inside. We can't get in. I'm like, son of a bitch. I walk outside. Now he's got this 6'5" guy with him, and it's him. He's probably my height, little skinny guy. And I walk up to him and I said, "Hey, listen." I said, "I'm a state trooper in Rhode Island. Okay, give me the arena tickets and give me my money back." And he looked at me, and I could tell. And he's trying to size me up. I said, "You think I'm kidding? I make one phone call, you guys are done." He gave me the tickets, and he gave me my money back. And I'm like, "Oh my!" I was telling my kids and my wife that they were dying. It was God's honest truth, true story.
2012, we're at the AFC Championship game, Patriots versus the Ravens. Billy Cundiff misses the kick wide left.
Got it.
I'm in the men's room.
Yep.
I come out.
This is the final drive game.
Yep. So there's a TV out right outside the restroom. I come out. Patriots win the game. I run. There's a state trooper. Guy had to be 6'6". I run out of the. There was nobody around. Everybody was in the stadium. I just had to pee at the time. I run out. I jump on this guy. I embrace him like a baby.
Yeah.
Hands, legs wrapped around him. This 6'5" guy grabs me and starts jumping with me. It's the only cool state trooper story I have. This guy devoured me like a child, like I wasn't even there. It was at that moment I realized, okay, I'm really 5'6".
I'm really 5'6". No, I get it. No matter how big you get, your height's your height. That's it.
I can't do shit about it.
Nope.
So Brian, in my eyes, you've learned to use weightlifting as a tool in your arsenal against anxiety on some level, but you also managed to turn it into a business called IFT Training. Mm-hmm. How did that idea first come about?
Well, as I mentioned before, Dorian Yates was one of the...
Love him.
Yeah, he's a 6-time guy. He's but his style of training, if you remember in West Warwick...
I do it right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. His style of training, and I think back then his name was Bobby I was training with. He was actually another short guy like us. And I needed a training partner because his style of training, you need a spot. And I loved it because if you've read my book, so you've read the Nail in the Wood. Mm-hmm. So when the nail's in the wood, why do another set? Because it's already done. You've already you've shed your protein. You're ready to rebuild, so on and so forth. And so I took that analogy of his style of training into my life. Once the nail's in the wood, you're done. And it helped me with my anxiety because it helped me focus on that one particular lift, that all-out set, and that was it. And once it was done, move on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. And what it just helped me focus more on living the now. There's nothing else to think about. And when you got 450 pounds and you're sitting there trying to get it up for the fifth rep,
you can't break concentration.
What are you thinking of? There's nothing else to think about but that.
And I think chemically speaking, what I don't think you realized at the time, but you probably do now, is you were exhausting your fight or flight. You were exhausting your cortisol levels.
All of it, sure.
It was spent. It was gone.
Right.
There was none left to kind of create those demons for you.
The gym atmosphere is one of, if you want to hear a funny story about that, but in Carteret, New Jersey, there was a gym. I'd lie if I told you the name. And I used to stay at the Holiday Inn in Carteret, New Jersey. And the reason I stayed there was the sign was about 7 miles up, and you can read it from anywhere.
This is in the book.
Yes, it is.
I remember.
In fact, we drove by it not too long ago. It's out of business. Coming home from Florida with this COVID. And so anyway, the gym was there. It was by the Rahway prison. There were some really tough dudes in there because you can imagine, right in the middle of Rahway.
Oh, God, yeah.
But I lifted in there. I loved it. But from there, I used to go to dinner with customers. Now, rather than go home, I used to try and shower in the gym. Did I tell you the story?
Yeah, I remember reading it.
Yeah.
I remember reading it.
But that happened all the time. And
you needed to exhaust yourself before you went to an appointment.
But I showered in my tighty whities because once I had shampoo in my hair, I couldn't breathe. I hyperventilated, and in my head, I'm like, these are the guys I train with. They're going to see this a-hole run out of the gym in his tighty whities with shampoo in his hair because he doesn't know what's the matter with him. So I used to shampoo my hair with my tighty whities on, towel up, throw those away, put my new ones on, and then put my suit on and go. But
what a tormented ritual, my God.
Oh, God. No, the gyms, so many times that I couldn't take showers, so I was sweating. I had to put a suit on. I wasn't near my hotel. I'd go in a swimming pool, find it, just a place to put my suit on and put my suit on, smelling like chlorine. And yeah, that poor kid. I mean, I look back on it. It was, but here we are talking, having beers, doing our thing. And it was, it sucked. It was sucked. But it's funny now. It's funny that I go to a hotel and look for a maid that's cleaning a room and say, it's my room, can I take a quick shower? Her not knowing. And I'd use the shower. She's cleaning the room for the next guest. And I said, let me just take a quick shower thinking it's my room to put on a suit to go see a customer.
It's clever, though. I'll give you.
You learn
creative.
how to do that.
Yeah, you learn to maneuver. So
I could tell you some good stories.
Save it for the second episode.
Okay.
So, Brian, like I said in my intro, going back to when I was a young man, you not only made me feel comfortable to be in the gym in that environment, but as, 15, 16-year-old guy, it's intimidating to just approach someone physically the way you look. But now that I know more about you, I look back, I'm like, where did I get the balls to just walk up to this guy? That would be my mentality normally. But now knowing, this intimate side of you, it's, Jesus Christ, I wish we had these discussions 20 years ago,
I probably wouldn't have told you.
No, and I probably wouldn't have admitted everything I've just admitted on this thing too.
Absolutely.
This is like a big cleanse for me.
No, it's the truth. Why would I tell you how nervous and scared I was?
Yeah,
I wouldn't do it.
Because you couldn't confront it at that time.
Of course not. And tell my wife, I'm not going to tell you.
I mentioned before that, to me, our interactions, 20, 25 years ago were critical to kind of shaping my mentality and how I viewed the world and so forth. But again, there were times when I wish I had reached out to you when I truly needed you, and I never did. Now that I know how much we kind of see things in the same perspective, I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, of course, obviously neither one of us are MDs, but what do you think the importance is of men and women at a young age getting involved with physical health, physical fitness? And I'm not talking about a gym class, but I'm talking about the ability to get out there, out of your comfort zone, test yourself physically, push yourself beyond the limits of exhaustion. How does that translate into the business world? Like, how are you able to take that mentality? Like, for me, and this is exactly the conversation I had in myself. 2002, my situation, I said, if I can go to the gym and beat myself up physically to the point of vomiting, there is no reason I can't take that same mentality and just translate that over to going back to college and getting a normal 9-to-5 job and being a normal, upstanding citizen in community. How critical do you think it is for kids at a young age to get involved and learn to test themselves outside of their comfort zone through physical fitness?
Again, not going to give you the vanilla answer of it's very important. It's not only very important, it's part of, it should be part of your life.
Yeah.
Just speaking for my own kids, my son trains every day. He learns how to get out of his comfort zone, and things that used to bother him don't anymore. Because, he still has he's 28 years old. He's going to have his problems. He's going to have it. But when you attack things that take you out of your comfort zone, it makes you look at things that are out of your comfort zone. Like, I can handle that, so I can handle this.
What else can I handle? It just
makes it easier to confront things that are making you uncomfortable.
It makes that initial first step easier.
Right. My daughter, she runs marathons. She's pregnant. She's due next month. She still runs. She's running 3-4 months. Thank you. But she's still running because she knows not only is it good for her, subconsciously it's testing her and it's pushing her. And she also has a hard time. She had a hard time with anxiety growing up.
Soccer player, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And she was very good, played soccer in college, but she had anxiety. She was shy. But I was able to help her because I knew what it was.
You went through it.
I went through it. And so it's extremely, extremely important. And push-ups. People think you have to join a gym. I said, really? So I'm Skyping and I'm, what do they call it, the Zoom, and I'm doing this, and somebody says, I'm going to give you 3 push-ups. If you do these 3 push-ups, God bless you. So I give them 30 seconds hold, 30 seconds down, 30 seconds up. Nobody can do it. It's a very difficult thing.
It's hard. Isometric tension is very hard.
It's extremely hard. But what you got to do is you got to put, when I used to coach kids, okay, I'll come back to this. I'd have them hold halfway down, and they'd be head to head. And they'd be testing each other. And as soon as he went down, the next guy went down. So I'd say...
It's just long enough. Yeah.
Right. So what I do is I say, okay, now go feet to feet. So now...
So you can't see when the other guy quits.
So now they don't know. So I said, everybody's around, they don't know what's going on. And I timed them. It was almost 1.5 minutes longer than what they did last time. So you never know. Yeah. You never know how far you can...
It's brilliant,
the SEALs
actually.
and all these people. And you never know.
The 40% rule. When you've hit your limit, I think the Navy SEALs say that when you've hit your psychological limit, you've only tapped into 40% of your potential. You have 60% left.
It's incredible what the mind can do, and without, there's books and books and books and books about the same thing. But going back to my story, that was the negativity of the mind. That was the bad stuff, the stuff that shouldn't be in there. Then what happened was I was able to take the mind and put the good stuff in there. So now you think about, here's a guy, this guy, not me, here's a guy who was going through all this stuff, this anguish, this horrific stuff, this torment, and he took it and he made it into something that was good. Without psychiatrists, without psychologists, without people telling me this is what you need, you go from here to here. No.
Yeah.
By me fixing it, by realizing that this is what it is. So that's the power of the mind. So when you take the power of the mind and you put it into this workout, and you see downstairs, I have my journal, I still write. I did 8 plates times 5. Next time, 8 plates plus 5 pounds times 5.
Yeah.
You're just constantly pushing yourself out of the comfort zone.
Testing your limits.
And lastly, I'll say this. To answer your question. When I give a speech, my voice vibrates because I'm nervous. My heart's going 180 beats per minute, and it's very hard to talk. So what I do is I give my speech on a treadmill because I'm getting used to giving my speech with my heart going 180 beats per minute. Yeah. So I give my speech on a treadmill, and I sound ridiculous. But then when I give my speech with my heart going, I'm so used to it that it doesn't affect me.
Yeah, that's your baseline at that point.
You want to bench 400, you work with 450. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is I'm essentially taking my speech, I'm running and trying to say my speech. So when I get up on stage, I'm hyperventilating, but it's not affecting me.
Yeah.
Because I've been there already.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with training. You get past that point of you get comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
I do love that saying, Les Brown.
Oh, God.
I absolutely
Fantastic.
love it. So this is the last question that I had scripted for you. No, it's you've got to actually, we've touched on so many different things.
No, that's fine.
So, I know that we all inherit certain traits and characteristics from our parents. How did your anxiety affect you when you found out that you were going to be a father?
When I was going to be a father?
When you found out that you were going to be a father?
That's a great question. One that's never.
That'd be my first one.
No. I'll say it this way. I've been asked hundreds and thousands of questions. Never been asked that one. It's a great question.
Thank you.
How did it affect me? My concern was that after my daughter was born, my concern was that you might have read, I don't know if I wrote it in there or not, that I passed on this gene to them. There's a big chapter in there called guilt. And it's still with me now. Still with me today. And shame on me. It's a horrible feeling to have, but it is. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. It probably added to it because how am I going to take care of them if I have this thing?
You probably had so many other emotions flowing through you at the time.
Yeah, I didn't think about it at the time. I just knew that, you got to remember, my wife was very... she was a go-getter. She was a bank manager. She was moving up in the world. She had a degree. She went to college. And here I am trying to talk my wife out of stopping. I wanted her to take care of my kids. If she knew what I was going through, she probably would have talked me out of it. Said, I'm going to, that kind of thing. But it probably added a little more pressure, good pressure, because I wanted to make sure that I was taking care of them.
You're a hunter by nature, and that's why. I've been waiting for the opportunity to say this to you, because there are certain people who would fold under that pressure, but you put aside this issue that you've been dealing with, the beast, so to speak, and you asked yourself the other questions. Not so much how is this going to hurt me, but what do I need to do to protect, provide for, and so forth.
Sure.
You're a hunter by nature.
I won't disagree with that.
No, I was hoping for that type of answer, because I feel like you and I are very similar in the regard that regardless of what life presents to us, we will find a way.
Sure.
We will always persevere because we don't have it in us to quit.
I always say, other than God, there's a way.
Yeah.
And don't say do. And I have that written everywhere. Don't say do. Don't tell me, just do it.
Yeah.
And even downstairs, even in my company, in my business, it's not. I used to stare at bottles, and this guy said no, and I used to go, "There's a way. There's got to be a way." I know, and it sounds corny, it sounds cliche. And I used to sit there by myself at Goddard Park on the bench. And friends of mine used to drive sometimes through there, whatever. Hey, what are you doing? It must be nice sitting on the bench. They have no idea what I'm thinking about. And I'm trying to think about how to get to the next level, how to get to that ring, how to get that ring. Okay, now that I got that ring, how am I going to get to the next ring? In addition, what the F is wrong with me? So
you were fighting two battles at the same time.
Yeah, so I do agree with that. That guy was a hunter. And I'm glad he was able to persevere. And
I have an idea for a T-shirt. We should. I've been saying this for years that I wanted to turn. I'm not going to say this on camera because people are going to hear this. But I have an idea for a T-shirt. I think you're going to love.
Well,
I'll say it off camera.
Good. Oh, okay.
Losers try things. Winners do things. Be a winner. I used to say it to my customers all the time. I want to try losing weight. I'm like, losers try things. Go be a winner. Do something. I used to say that all the time.
Fantastic. I've made don't say do signs, and I've given them to many people, and not many people deserve them because they're kind of like, well, what do you think we should? And even my brother, who's phenomenal, he runs my company. He's great, and he'll tell you. Years ago, he used to come in my office. He says, we're having a problem with this and that. And I used to look at him, and I go back down, right, like not even paying attention to him. And after a while, he realized, don't tell me the problem. Tell me what you did, and then tell me what the problem was. Because it's easy. Tell me what the problem is. So it's the same thing. My kids today, sometimes they don't even tell me. They tell my wife because they know me. And my son, it just happened to him recently. If there's a problem, I go 100% to try and fix it. My son always says, and I thought this was hysterical, if you ask Dad for the time, he'll build you a watch. And it's the truth.
No, but that's great minds. You don't want the problem. So, like, perfect example. I don't go to my director with a problem. I go to him with the solution. Here's the sequence of events that happened that prompted me to perform this action. That's what he wants.
That's right.
And it's just a different mentality. Now, there are people in my workplace all over the world. They'll look at a problem and they'll just pontificate on that. They just keep ruminating on that one problem. I don't. You present me with a problem, cool. Give me 5 minutes and I'll have the beginning of a solution, if not the solution. And that's why I say we're hunters. Because I don't want to be bogged down in the bullshit that's causing problems. What are our options? What are the avenues can we explore?
This is fun.
I love it.
This is fun.
All right, so listen, here's my wrap up.
All right.
I had a great intro, monologue, whatever you want to call it.
You did.
All right. So I've kind of divulged to you that I've had an issue with I've been afraid of success my whole life. I never knew that I had it within me to achieve it, so I never knew enough to go out and look for, and try to get it for myself. I've always shied away from my gifts. Like, I believe that something like this is the arena that I belong in. But I never knew how to go about it, and I've always shied away from it. But on a level where I never felt like I had somebody I can relate to with this, you were always in the back of my head. And I said, I don't know if you were off camera at that point, could I go to Brian with this? And my wife will validate this. I've always used you as the benchmark for, am I making, there's you and my grandfather. These are the two men that I look at and say,
I'm not going to be able to walk out the door with this.
No, your head ain't going to fit. I have to shove you out that window. Is that window open? But again, these issues have caused me to struggle my whole life with finding my path and what it is that I could succeed at. And also giving me the ability to create the life that I knew I wanted. I just didn't know how to get. In my opinion, I've always had somewhat of a loser's mentality, and I think a lot of my life growing up, I hung out with people at a certain level because that's where I felt like I was going to wind up. I didn't have the foresight to see beyond that. I never believed enough in myself to actually go out and pursue my passion. What I'm doing right now, what we're doing right here, you were the first guest I had in mind when I created this show. And I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here. And I know we discussed this prior to recording. Like, you've been this voice in my head for the last 2.5, almost 3 decades.
Wow.
So your success and your story has been this constant feeding force in my mind. There have been pockets of time in my life where I've wanted to reach out to you, and I know we've discussed this, but I felt as though my failures and then my actions, I was too embarrassed to look you in the eye to come to you for counsel. Right. And at a time when I probably could have used you most, I was embarrassed to come to you and talk about these things. You had been so instrumental to my introduction to weightlifting, which inevitably turned me and molded me into who I am today. I didn't know how to come to you at my lowest points in my life and ask for your advice. That is one of, if not my greatest regret, is that because there was somebody who I felt as though I could have leaned on and trusted for valuable feedback. It was you. There's yourself and Clem Socha was a gym teacher in high school. You two gentlemen always gave me, it's like you said, there's no gray area. You were this is the way things are. But a lot of the conversations you and I have had in private, they still exist, and I use them. I'll air quote you when I have these conversations, but I still use them to this day. So one of my greatest regrets is that, and my deepest time of need, I never really came to you, and I should have. What my hope is that this podcast today, with the two of us sitting down and sharing our stories to the listeners and viewers, that somebody will find the strength that they currently don't have to make the right decisions and not make the same mistakes that you and I have, and share some of our regrets. But also to learn to confront their fears and their self-doubts and their anxieties. I hope that everyone in their life finds their Brian Beneduce, and that someday they can seek counsel from that individual and learn to lean on them for advice and kind of help them when their paths go astray. So,
Steve,
that's all I got for you.
I got to be honest with you. I'm lost for words. I'm humbled, and there's really nothing more to say to that except that I'm always here for you, and this is your gift. This is your passion. And I've been interviewed on quite a few radio stations. And again, you mentioned that it's not because you're sitting next to me here. Yeah. We've been on the radio or this podcast.
We're coming up on 2 hours and 50 minutes now.
It feels like it's 35 minutes.
I know.
It truly does.
I could have packed a sleeping bag.
That's when you know that it's comfortable, and that's when you know that it's flowing, and I truly am blessed to meet you.
Thank you. And I can't stress enough how much I mean everything that I said, because I truly believe that there are, like, It's a Wonderful Life. Every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. Yeah. There's individuals that come in and out of your life, and you either recognize the significance of that interaction, or it just rolls off your shoulder and you move on with your life and you kind of continue down the correct path, or you make mistakes. And that is the honest God truth. There are numerous occasions in my life where I wish I had reached out to you sooner, particularly, when I had my business and so forth, and we discussed. But this is not fluff. This is not trying to coach or
There's no reason to.
Yeah, no, this is the God's honest truth, that you have been such a paramount figure for me mentally, and you continue to be, and I could not wait to do this episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that
very much.
Well, anytime. I appreciate the,
now my next trick is I'm going to read your next book, and I want to do a follow-up episode.
I would love to do it.
Yeah, this would be fantastic.
I enjoyed it. Really have.
All right, so listen, I've tied up enough of your night. It's now 20 of 8 at night.
Is it 20 to 8?
It's 20 to 8.
Wow.
What time did I get here? About 4 o'clock. A little after 4. So listen.
No wonder I'm hungry.
So Brian, look in the camera. Tell everybody where they can find you, how they can follow you. Talk and plug yourself, please.
This is something I'm very uncomfortable doing, but the name of the book is Scared to Death.
Hold it up so they can see it.
I'll hold it up. My other book is Anxiety Warrior, which was written by New York Times bestseller Casey Sherman. It's over there. I'm going to give it to you. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and you go to my website, brianbeneduce.com. It's got venues there that were canceled because of this COVID crap. But that's all I got to say. I'm really not good at. I'm good at selling, but not myself. I'm sorry. But thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
No, listen, this has been a blast. And honestly, anyone, I don't care who you are. We've all been through this. Check the book out. I like I said, I've read it 3 times now. I've cried 3 times because on some level, everybody will find a chapter, a sentence, whatever it may be, relatable to something you've either gone through or you're currently going through in your life. So check the book out. And I'm not just saying this because it's Brian. The man is amazing. What he's accomplished is beyond words, and I'm honored, and I mean that. I am honored to have known you for almost 30 years now, and to say that you're a friend, and again, you've quietly been a mentor to me, and Thank you so much for allowing me to do this.
No words. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
This is Steve Bardi from The Body Shop with my guest, Brian Beneduce. Again, I usually start the show with this, but I hate being the second best looking guy in the room. But again, here I am.
Now I know you lie.
Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned. We will be back.
Thank you. Pal.